In this era of grave spiritual crisis, it is not enough to simply know about your Catholic faith. That is why we need a Catholic Toolbox to equip us with the practical skills necessary to live our Catholic faith to reach our ultimate goal, which is heaven for all eternity. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the Catholic Toolbox as we hand you the tools to go forth, live the faith, and change our modern world today. Live on the Voice of Charity.
And welcome back to another week on the Catholic Toolbox, the art of practical Catholicism. I'm your host and founder, George Manassa, here as we equip you with practical tools to live your faith in our modern world of today. And this week, I welcome a friend of mine, Kevin Bailey. Welcome back to the Catholic Toolbox.
Great to be here, George.
It's always great to have you here on the show and bringing your energy and your enthusiasm as director of Parousia Media and all the other great work that you do around the church, especially in your entrepreneurial life as well, in the midst of the ordinary circumstances of daily life. It's a real pleasure to have you on and discussing a very important topic here tonight, and that is parish life. We're going to be speaking about parish life because I feel like for millennials and young Catholics, nobody really sticks to their local parish. Everybody just, if you're a practicing Catholic, you go where you like, the priest, or where you feel you fit in, and
where
people
you get
travel
fed.
on Sundays.
Go where you get fed. Like every
right.
good, when you're a teenager, you go and you find out where your mates' places where the mum feeds you. That's where you hang out. So the thing is, with our faith, we shop around a bit and we go wherever we're being fed. And so we're mobile these days. You've got a car, you've got wheels, and so the loyalty to the local parish isn't quite as strong as it used to be in previous generations.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the local parish for many people is simply the weekday mass, or if they need to get to mass during the week, where's convenient, where's local. But when it comes to Sunday and you have free time, that's the ultimate test. You have a lot more free time. You can travel, whether you go to a certain parish or a chaplaincy or the traditional Latin mass or any other Eastern rite. People make the effort to go out of where they live into other local parishes or a parish or wherever they go to mass. But speaking tonight about parish life and growing and improving parish life, you're involved in a particular parish renewal. If you want to introduce our listeners to that you're involved in and that you're a part of.
I'm the Executive Director for Australia and New Zealand of Divine Renovation. Divine Renovation is a ministry or a movement that was established by Father James Mallon, who is a priest from Nova Scotia in Canada. And he, as a youngster, when he was about 16 or 17, went away on a church weekend. He wasn't a holy guy. He was he's from Glasgow originally, a Scottish guy. And he, from the story that I've heard, is that he got into a bit of trouble with some of his mates down the street, and he got taken home in the back of a paddy wagon. He basically, the local constabulary, the police brought him home. He hadn't done anything terrible, but they thought he was getting up to no good. And so his mother said, as punishment, he can go on a church weekend. And so the church weekend that they sent him on was a Casillo weekend. And he had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and that changed everything. He had a profound encounter where he knew that he was loved. He knew that Jesus was real. And that's what we've got to give our young people, an opportunity to meet Jesus. And we ideally should be doing that within that confines of a parish or a family environment. And our parish is like our family. And so Father James got very involved in the movements. As you know, there's lots of movements. There's Charismatic Renewal, there's Teams of Our Lady, there's Concilio, there was Antioch that used to be around when I was a young person. All these sorts of movements that people get their faith, and they get nurtured in their faith in all sorts of different ways. And they tended to use the parish as a sacramental service station, where they go there and, you know, they fill up and then they're off again, you know, and so there was no real belonging. And so Father James said, well, if only the Sunday experience could be the same as the Wednesday night experience or the Friday night experience at the movement that he was involved in. And he thought, it shouldn't be like this. And so that got him really thinking. When he went through seminary, became a young priest. And when he finally became a parish priest, he thought, I've got to put this into action. And he started asking lots of questions of lots of people about how could we transform the boring, beige, bland parish that was just, you know what it's like. You know, you get some pretty bad parishes. And unfortunately, we've become a bit jaded. And so he set about focusing on what's needed and started really trying to understand. And he struck upon three keys that were fundamental. And the first key to have a vibrant, loving environment in a parish is that it needs to be embodied in prayer. We've forgotten, you know, if you have a parish that has adoration, and really has rosary, adoration, lots of the traditional types of
piety, and devotion.
And so we've got to really pray for the power of the Holy Spirit to really transform. We can't transform our churches and our parishes. It's a bit like if you've got customers that have left your organization because they're disappointed or disillusioned or whatever in the business world, it's really hard to get those customers back. You know, if I'm a customer, for example, if I had my accountant that I was dealing with and I decided to leave him and go to a different accountant to get my tax work done, and then after a number of years, I don't like the new accountant, the chances of me going back to the old accountant that I didn't like are about 1,000 to 1. The same thing with church. When people leave the church, it's really hard to get them back. And what we've got to pray for is that they have an encounter with Christ and that they have an opportunity to really turn their life around, and then they voluntarily want to come back. But we've got to have a place that is welcoming for them. And so the second really important key is to have a parish that is welcoming, that is reaching out to the people outside of the parish. A parish should be the only club that exists for its non-members. Most clubs exist where they provide services to members, and whether it's a leagues club or whether it's
or affiliate members.
Affiliate members, you know, exactly. And really,
with letters of recommendation.
We are called to be fishers of men. We're called to be out there bringing in new people, so that we need to be invitational. A parish needs to have ways of reaching people outside the parish and inviting others to come into that community. But in order to do that, you've got to have really good leadership. And in the old method, the old style of leadership, it's very lonely being a parish priest. Often they don't have an assistant priest. Even if they do have an associate priest, they feel that the burden's on their shoulders, and they try to lead from this dictatorial, do as I say type thing. I make every decision. Every time someone wants a decision made, we've got to ask Father, because under canon law, the priest is the leader of the parish.
Yeah.
What Father James recognised, and I've recognised as well, I came from a military background, and then I've been involved in business for over 30 years. And the best types of leadership is where you actually lead out of a team and you have backup and support. Even in a marriage, if you don't lead as a team, the kids know how to put one parent against the other, pit them against the other, and said, oh, dad said I can do this, or mum said this, or they try to actually divide and conquer. And so what Father James came to the conclusion was that the best way that he could lead was out of a senior leadership team, because he hasn't got all of the charisms of leadership. He hasn't got all of the opportunities to reach different people and do different things. He's got lots of blind spots. So what Divine Renovation grew out of was his desire to transform his parish of St. Benedict's in Canada into a parish that was thriving and alive, and where people came to meet Jesus and know Jesus, and that they invited others to come to know Jesus. And so those three keys were the power of the Holy Spirit, the best of leadership, and the opportunity to be missional or reaching out to others. And so there are lots of parishes that have got, when you're trying to provide services for your parishioners, the priest ends up feeling like he's drinking out of a fire hydrant. Everything is coming at him non-stop, and is so busy. And it's important to maintain the flock. Most people go into the priesthood because they want to be shepherds. They want to look after people. But if you're a shepherd, a good shepherd, feeds his sheep, and he's, Jesus said to St. Peter, "Feed my sheep, feed my lambs." And you know what you feed sheep? Any idea, George? What
Grass.
does sheep? Grass.
Yeah.
Now,
if you want grass-fed. You want grass-fed.
Grass-fed sheep, absolutely. Now,
I think they only eat grass.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is that if you feed sheep grass, so that the bait that you're using, if you're going to become a fisher of men, you put grass on the end of your fish hook, you're not going to catch many fish. So we're using the wrong thing to get the people outside of the flock to come in. And so being a fisher of men is a very different skill set to being a shepherd where you're feeding the sheep. And so a parish relies on all of the parishioners being invitational and inviting people to come. And we find that using the Alpha program, which is a 10-week or an 8-week program where you invite people to a meal, they can ask questions about life and the meaning of life. They can ask questions about who is Jesus, what's life all about, what is Christianity, any hard questions they have. And they watch a 20-minute talk, and then they have a meal together around the table, and then they get to discuss a few questions. And that environment seems to work really well for giving people an on-ramp to come and taste and see and to explore our faith. And what happens is people belong. They feel like they belong to this group, and then they start to believe, and they have an opportunity to invite Jesus into their heart.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they start to behave. But unfortunately, we've got it the other way around. We try to make people behave before they can belong, and then they can believe. And so, when they believe, and so what we've got to do is we've got to flip it upside down and get people to belong and accept them where they're at, where they might be living in sin, or they might be broken, or they might be, have all sorts of problems. They can come along and they can actually have a meal with us. They can enjoy the company. They feel that they're not criticized or judged. And then gradually they start to believe, and then they can repent, and they can actually belong. And then they start to behave. But we shouldn't have as a prerequisite for people to be in our parish that they have to behave in the first instance.
Okay.
And, the idea of being invitational, if you look at the average parish, let's say there's 1,000 people in a parish. If it's a Maronite parish, it's probably 2,000.
Or 50,000.
or 50,000. Let's say on average, let's say 500 to 1,000 people are going to Mass on Sunday. And then you have the RCIA, and people are coming, new people coming, adult baptisms. If you had 5 or 10 people in your parish getting baptized, you would think you're doing really well at Easter. So every year, if you got 5 or 10 people coming to faith, then you'd think you're doing really well. The trouble is we have more than 5 or 10 people dying every year and going out the back door. So if we have 5 or 10 people in a parish of 500 to 1,000 people, that means that on average, people in that parish are bringing, on average, 1 person to Jesus per century. There's 1,000 people in the parish and 10 people per year. Yeah. For the parishioners in that parish, they're only bringing 1 person to faith per 100 years. That is appalling. We are not per person. In everyone in the, it's all our responsibility. It's not the priest's responsibility. It's every baptized Catholic's responsibility to be sharing the faith.
That's shocking. That really is shocking.
It is damning.
Would you accept that as an entrepreneur running a company from your employees?
As an entrepreneur, as a businessman, if I had a business that people were bringing 1 customer per century, I wouldn't be in business for very long. In our Catholic schools, we have 98% of kids matriculating or finishing HSC. 98% of them are not practicing their faith by the time they finish Catholic education. We have about 2% those are the numbers. We've got now 92% of Catholics are not practicing their faith. 8% of Catholics go to Mass every Sunday. And even a smaller percentage go to confession. And so what we've got is a challenge that's put before us, that we don't have to be this way. You know, one of the things that Divine Renovation has been established to do is to bring hope to priest, life to parishes, and people to Jesus. Hope to priest who are jaded, and it's not their fault. They've just become burnt out and feel like the hopelessness of the whole thing. So they just go through the motions, and they're not much fun. And the time has come to put fun back into the life of our priests and fill them with joy and hope. And when you bring life to parishes by having a senior leadership team working with the priest, transforming the parish, and actually finding people to come to rejoin the parish or to actually come to the Catholic faith for the first time, they become like reformed smokers, and they're so on fire for the faith. You know, new Christians are unbelievable. And so they then volunteer to do other ministries within the parish. So they can run the soup kitchen, or they can do the some of the courses on, you know, the Bible timeline, or they can do some of the programs that we do. We offer parishes with Parousia. They can get involved in helping young couples that are bringing their children for baptism, or they can be involved in the sacramental program, or they can be involved in running Alpha or doing other things. And so, or a mum's Lenten program. All sorts of people start to volunteer, and so that everyone in your parish should be a volunteer. They should all have to have a working with children's check, because everyone's got a job. The Bark of Peter of the parish is not a cruise ship where you get services and people should be grateful you turn up. It's a battleship where you've got a job to do. Everyone is on task, and everyone's got a job. And so if we could actually just turn things around to have, instead of 1 person per century, imagine if every person in your parish brought 1 person to Jesus every decade. We would have 100 people turning up for RCIA every Easter, not 10.
And not to mention all those people having families and children and compounding over 10 to 20 years and 30 years.
Oh, it's a game changer. And so, you know, what we've got is we've accepted mediocrity for far too long.
That's right.
And Jesus doesn't, you know, Jesus talks about take up your cross, and we're looking for comfort. and we're thinking we're doing okay. We're the big brother in the prodigal son. We're the one who's, we didn't go off and squander everything. And so when you hear the story of the prodigal son, which character are you? Most of us are the big brother, and we get really angry because the prodigal son comes home and the father wants to kill the fattened calf and have a party for him because he's come home. We say, hey, what about me? I've been going to daily mass and I've been going to mass every Sunday, and we think we're so holy, but we're not. We're all flawed and we're all broken, and we should rejoice in the prodigal son coming home, and we should rejoice in finding people who've got no faith or who are lost. Jesus, when I think about my wife, and one of the things that she has been very good at doing in our marriage has been saying, she would say to me late at night, she'd say, what's on your heart? And so like all good wives, they want to know what their husbands are thinking about and what's important to them. And they want us to share our heart with them. But being an Aussie male, I'm like, nothing's on my heart. And why are you so annoying? Why do you ask what's on my heart? But really the reason she was asking me to open up, and it's really be vulnerable and to open up and to share my heart, is because it's really important for us to know each other intimately and to be close to each other so that we can have that marriage bond. And so I used to get really frustrated, but when I knew what was behind her request, then that really opened up my heart and allowed me to share. So I decided to use this on Jesus. I thought this is a good technique. She's used it on me. So I pray, what's on your heart, Lord? What's on your heart? Open your heart. Okay. I want to know you. I want to have a relationship in the way that my wife wants to have a relationship with me. I want to have a relationship with you, Lord. I want to know what's on your heart. So I'd sit in adoration and say, what's on your heart, Lord? Open your heart. And you know what's on Jesus's heart. He wants the lost sheep. He wants the broken and the lonely and the outcast. He cares. His heart breaks for the people who are not in church. His heart breaks for the people who are lost. And he leaves us in church and goes off in search of the lost sheep. And so what's on Jesus's heart? If we want to be close to the heart of Jesus, it's got to be on our hearts, that we care desperately about those who don't know the Lord, and not just get into our little club, our little cliquey group, that we can go from, one club or one group to another, and we get fed and we go wherever we're fed and we think, oh, this is great. I love it. I'm feeling good. I'm comfortable. And as long as I'm being fed, I'm okay. But Jesus didn't say get fed. He said feed my sheep.
Exactly.
He said, be fishers of men. He puts us to work. He loves us so much that he gives us the opportunity to be the conduit that he's going to work towards. That's such a privilege and such an honor. And so he says, take up your cross and follow me. And the cross has got splinters and the cross has got nails and the cross is hard. And quite frankly, as men, particularly, the idea of us doing the thing that is hard is what invigorates us. And millennials are looking for the hard thing. That's what Jordan Peterson tells people. Do the hard thing, don't just, and we want to offer our young people softness and easy route.
Yeah, that's right.
And what they search for is the hard thing. They want to do the courageous thing. And so we need to recognize that our nature as Catholics is to actually be heroic and to actually lay down our life for what is on the Lord's heart, which is the lost and the broken and the lonely and the dispossessed and the people who've really are not comfortable. And we go out of our comfort zone to invite others, and we actually start transforming the parish, and the parish comes alive and it becomes the center of our life. And where we get involved in volunteering to lead the different groups that are doing different things. And even though we're busy, even though we're caught up, I think of my brother-in-law who unfortunately hasn't gone to mass for 30 years. He's really left the church when he was a teenager. And and yet he's a really good guy. But what's happened is as his kids became teenagers, he got really involved with the local footy club.
Yeah.
And he then ended up volunteering to become the secretary of the local footy club. And they say you only get out of something whatever you put into it. And so he's literally down there, 5 or 6 days a week. He gives about 15 hours or 18 hours a week, maybe 20 hours a week, voluntarily as the secretary of the local football club. He's doing all the rosters. He's doing all he's constantly on the phone working for the footy club because he loves the club. And when they were building new change room for the boys, he basically donated $25,000 that he couldn't afford.
Yeah.
For the club. And so if he has such a passion for the club, that's not literally something that's beyond himself, like the church and building the kingdom of God. If we could have the same passion for our parish that he's got for the footy club, we could change the world. We could set the world on fire. Imagine, we have people who put coins in the collection basket. We don't give sacrificially. We just put a few coins in and we think we're good enough because we just turn up. But, if we actually...
That's true. Very, very true.
Volunteered 15 hours a week for our parish because we love it so much and we're so involved and we don't have to get paid for it, like my brother-in-law doesn't have to get paid to be the secretary of the footy club. And we actually donated $25,000 to build an adoration chapel or to do something else because we felt so fervently about it. Can you imagine if everyone in the parish had that same attitude? It would transform that parish dramatically. And so what we're seeing is lots of, the seminaries are filled with young guys coming into the priesthood when this is the hardest time ever to be a Catholic priest. When it was just easy, sailing, and everyone, made it, sort of easy going, there were no vocations. It's really hard to be Catholic. We get persecuted, and now we've got more seminarians and young priests. These young guys that are coming through now are full of fervour for the faith. And so we want them not to be broken and jaded like the guys who are in their 60s and 70s have just worn out and given up hope. We want to renew the hope for the older priests, and we want the younger priests to know that we've got their back. The number of times I meet priests and I say, Father, I've got your back. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. And so what we do at Divine Renovation is we provide coaching to coach priests on leadership. They've had no training on leadership in the seminary. They've got no idea what leadership is all about. In business, we send people out to courses on leadership. We train them continually. We assess them. We hold them accountable. And we give them a leadership team to lead with. And so we're doing the same thing for parishes, for priests. And then we actually have parishioners that are taking up leadership roles in all sorts of ministries and taking off the priest the burden of running ministries which are not central to his priesthood. And then we have that invitational culture, which is bringing new people into the parish every year, again and again and again. And
That's
then
right.
we actually challenge people to really make the parish the centre of their life. And then their children, we can have children's ministries and we can have all sorts of other ministries that people are working in. But the fact is there's no room in your parish for passengers. That's everyone in the parish has a responsibility and has a job. And everyone in the parish is going to give, according to their means, but also beyond their means sometimes, like my brother did with the footy club. So these are the sorts of things that can literally change parishes. I've seen literally we're working with 540 parishes around Australia and New Zealand now.
504.
Around
Wow.
the world, we're working with
amazing.
over 5,000 parishes. In less than 10 years, our ministry has been operating, and it's just growing like wildfire. And it's very exciting. And I've seen so many priests change and turn around, and they're filled with joy and filled with hope and filled with passion for their priesthood. And so I thank priests for their priesthood because what it means to me and what the difference it makes. And they, priests are always getting people coming up to them. If they get a phone call or a knock at the door, someone wants a piece of them. Someone wants something. I turn up the door of the parish and knock on the presbytery door, and I say, I've just got this fantastic bottle of wine, Father. I thought you would like it. Thank you for your priesthood. Here's a gift. They never get gifts from parishioners to say thank you. And sometimes write a letter to say how much that his priesthood means to you. And we need to look after, invite them to our home for dinner, to come around for dinner. And we invite some friends around, and we always, the idea of always inviting the parish priest. Many times they can't come, but they know they're loved, And we've got our children, our wives or our grandchildren who let us know we're loved all the time. We're the family of our parish priest, and we've got to let him know that he's loved and appreciated, and that we're here to help him. And so, we provide coaches free of charge to priests that can coach them on leadership, and we actually help them with. We do provide backup and strength. We do use what we call strength finders to show, help them to see where their strengths and weaknesses are, and to actually be better, managers and better priests and better leaders in their parish. And then they gather around themselves 5 or 6 people who become part of the
a team. Yeah, a team.
And they have a team. And I've had some priests who said that they were ready to leave the priesthood.
Wow.
And then this has changed their priesthood. And I've seen parishes that were bland and boring and beige and nothing come alive.
You say bland and boring and beige. You see that all the time wherever you go in every diocese.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I can't imagine being a parish priest in some of these
It drives me
parishes.
crazy. Yeah.
With a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork, and and you've given your life up to serve the flock.
Yes.
and
Not just the flock, but also you've got to be fishers of men, remember?
Exactly.
So people getting this idea that they've just got to look after the maintenance of the flock.
That's the problem.
But it's bigger than that. It's serving everyone within the boundaries of their parish, whether they're Buddhist or Muslim or atheists or lapsed Catholics or Anglicans or...
Kevin, here's an idea for you.
Yeah.
Another one I had, and I tell people about it, and anyone can steal it. You're free to steal this idea. We have a register of every single parish and every single diocese of people who've been baptized, confirmed, and married.
Yes.
Why can't we set up parish business development managers or evangelization managers who run a territory in the domicile of each parish and can call and follow up parishioners who we haven't seen and go out and see them, give them some information, try to bring them back to church, maybe through an alpha program or something. Why can't we do something like that? I mean, that's a great idea.
It's a great idea. And the reason we don't do it is because we're disobedient. If we pray the prayer, Lord, who is it outside the church that you want me to speak to today? If you wake up in the morning and you actually pray that little prayer of 14 words, Lord, who is it outside the church you want me to contact today? God will inevitably put someone on your heart to give a call to.
Yeah.
And then we think, oh, no, not that one. And so you disobey God's answer to your prayer. Like Jonah goes west when he's supposed to go to Nineveh. And what happens is we run away.
Yeah.
And so it's disobedience to God's call. And we put up with that. We say, that's okay. You don't have to do that because we're comfortable, because it's getting out of our comfort zone to do that. But yes, we do have to do that. And so, the thing is we have to have a conviction in our heart that is the heart of Jesus, which is for the lost and the lonely and the broken. And we have to turn our life around, because our church is dying, not because the Muslims are killing us in the Middle East, or not because we're being attacked or persecuted for our faith. We're dying because we've become complacent and bland and boring. And so we are just, becoming irrelevant. And yet only each and every individual person can change that in themselves and their own family. And quite frankly, when my eldest son didn't want to go to mass anymore, he refused to go when he was a teenager. And we were talking with some friends, and they were talking about what their kids were going to do when they left school. And they were, one was saying, "Oh, my son wants to be a doctor. My son wants to go into law, or my son wants to do this." And I was thinking of saying, "Oh, what my son wants to go, he wants to follow in my footsteps and go into finance." And before I could open my mouth, my wife blurted out, "I don't care if my son's a garbage collector, as long as I get to spend eternity with him." We need to have the heart my wife had, that we care so much about our children's faith that we're prepared to do anything. If our child was failing at maths, we get them a maths tutor because we want them to do well at school. If my child was suffering from anorexia, we get them a psychologist because we don't want them to starve themselves to death. If my child doesn't want to believe in God or want to go to church anymore, we say, "Oh, well, you can't make them." And we just think, "Oh, well, that's what happens, and we let them go. And so we need to actually show our kids that them practicing their faith and knowing Jesus is more important than their health or their maths grades. And that requires us to take our faith seriously. And if my son wanted to be just like me, and he did, then, I prayed to God about that, and God answered my prayer. I'll paraphrase God because his words weren't exactly this, but he said, "Let's mess with his head. If he wants to be just like you, why don't you quit your really high-paying job and making all this money and being successful and all the things that you think he wants to be like, all those things because his dad is all those things. What if you quit your job and just worked for the rest of your life to volunteer and just work for building up the church?" So I went, "Oh my God, no," and every excuse. But finally I had to say it was so important to me, to my wife, that my kids, because my eldest son wasn't going to go to mass, none of the younger kids were going to go either. And we were going to lose all of our kids to faith. And my wife couldn't bear the pain of not spending eternity with our kids. So what happened was I said, "Okay, I'm going to do this." And so I had enough money saved up, fortunately, my retirement savings. But then, 14 years ago, I sold my business and I haven't earned a cent since. And I basically give everything I earn to charity. And so I'm basically giving away the money that I've had. And so my son sees me going to daily mass, sees me working till 9 or 10 o'clock every night, but doing things to help bring people to faith. And he wants to be just like me. I didn't bring him around. He went to World Youth Day and someone else inspired him, and he ended up giving his life to Christ. And now he goes to daily mass and takes his daughter to mass every day. And he prays the rosary, and he's got a most amazing faith. And my other kids, they're following in his footsteps. And so what it takes sometimes is a radical transformation of our life to be serious about our faith. And our kids, if we're really serious about our faith, our kids will follow in our footsteps. The question is, have we been serious enough about our faith? And it's not over. My kids, a couple of them are a little bit, maybe not. They miss, occasionally. So I think what we need to do is pray for our kids every day, and pray that they have an encounter with Christ and they surrender their life. And if we had more Catholics doing that, instead of just going to mass on Sunday and just living a life the same as everybody else, if someone came into your home, would they recognize that home as Catholic? If someone came into a parish, would they recognize it as Catholic? But the fact is that we're just living like everyone else, going to the footy, following the footy, doing all the other things, and giving our $2 a week to the plate, and racing to get away from mass as soon as communion has been finished, and we've, sacramental service station, we've filled up and we're out of here. we've got to change our lives. And my life in the last 12, 13 years has been more filled with joy. I've met some of the most extraordinary people that I would never have met if I'd stayed in my business career. And financially, I've been able to show my kids that, maybe they won't get such a big inheritance, but they've become more generous and they've gotten much more involved with their faith. And I think that's the key, is that we've got to be able to have people in parishes turning their lives around, and we've got to find other men for our young men, and women for our young girls that can be role models. And they look up to role models. They look up to their mum till they're about 7. They look up to their dad till they're about 14. Then they look up to some other, Shane Warne or some footy player.
Yeah.
But we've got to have, or some bikie, or some gang member if we're not careful. So we've got to actually put into their lives really solid men. So I've got lots of mates that are involved in our parish, involved in our faith, and I basically befriend their kids, and I get them to befriend my kids, and to be mentors to them. And that's what parish life should be all about, where it takes a village to raise a child. And so my son, who's 18 now, my youngest son, he knows a couple of my mates, and he thinks they're awesome blokes because they pay attention to him, and they give him, they give him time, and they take him to the footy, or they invite him that we go skiing together, or do things together. And one of my mates, my son, he surfs. Now, I'm a lousy surfer, but nevertheless, my son decided that he wanted to go surfing, and so we got him a surfboard. And then my mate who surfs, he's in his 40s. He's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
And so he's a convert to the Catholic faith, and we helped bring him into the faith. And so there he is, taking my son down surfing, and talking about Jesus as they sit there waiting for a wave, because he's a new convert, so he's full of the faith. And so it's
amazing. Personal apostolate is absolutely amazing, to do that personal apostolate in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
With other people.
Yep.
And let's now go into the 3 practical tools. Many people, I'm sure, undoubtedly inspired tonight by everything that you're saying about the Divine Renovation Program, reinvigorating the priest, putting an A team around him so that they can work together and execute and get things done. But somebody listening here tonight, everybody's part of a parish, whether you're Catholic or looking at joining the church. What can we do to take action?
Yep.
Today, what are some 3 practical tools for people listening here tonight to take action tomorrow or now?
Praying for a change of heart, praying for the cross, praying. Now that's a hard one. This was the hardest prayer I took. It took me months and months and months before I would pray it with conviction. You know how we can pray to the saints in the Catholic Church? We can say, Mary, pray for me. Saint Joseph, pray for me. Saint Augustine, pray for me. Saint Simon of Cyrene, do you know who he was?
Yeah. The man who helped our Lord at the cross.
He helped Jesus carry the cross.
Yeah.
What a privilege. Can you imagine if in some way you could alleviate the suffering by a tiny little bit, even just to actually put your shoulder to the cross and to help Jesus to fulfill his destiny, to actually wrap your arm around Jesus and to actually let him lay his burden upon you. If you love someone, when my little daughter broke her arm when we were skiing, and she was in so much pain, and they're trying to straighten it a bit so they could put the plaster on, and she's screaming in pain. And my prayer was, just let me have the pain. Let me take the pain off my little 12-year-old daughter. I just don't want her to hurt. I love her so much that I want to share her pain. I want to take it off her. Simon of Cyrene was able to do that for Jesus. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to ask Simon of Cyrene, can you pray for me to help to help Jesus carry the cross that burdens him of the people who don't know him or are not. Could I help carry his cross like you helped him carry his cross? And I went, oh no, that's a bit too scary for me. So I didn't want to pray that prayer. It took me 3 or 4 months before I had the courage to pray, because when you pray for something, it gets answered. So we need to pray for a change of heart, that we will be prepared to take up the burden of the cross, of transforming our parish and take responsibility for it. So prayer is the first thing that we can do. Something practical that we can do in addition to praying is we can actually do something for our priest. We can love our priest, buy him a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey. Something about priests, they like wine and whiskey. I don't know. They must be all alcoholics.
Good Catholic thing.
Good Catholic thing.
Part of Catholic tradition to drink.
You bet. So buying them a gift or inviting them for dinner or inviting them around for a barbecue, again and again, even though they can't come, and not being ashamed of having a priest turn up at a barbecue with our mates, and being, a few men, we have a open fire pit, and I invite a few mates around, and then I invite the priest around.
Great conversations come out of having a priest at a party, and
Yeah.
I just
But they don't get invited. So doing
Exactly.
those sort of things, or writing a letter to your priest, that's a practical thing you can do.
Yeah.
Number
I
two,
just
volunteer.
I just turned 30 over the weekend, and
Congratulations.
thank you so much. I had a dinner for my 30th, and having a priest there at the head, the table,
Yes.
for our dinner, and having a mate of mine who's Jewish, and mates who are atheists, great conversations,
Yeah.
start, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is, to have a priest there. Many graces flow from that.
But the thing is it's great for us, but what I'm saying is what it does for the priest.
Exactly.
Where he feels loved, where he feels wanted, where he feels part of things, where he's important to us. And we're not asking anything of him. We're asking, what can we give you? How can I bless you, Father? What do you need? What can I do to bless you, to give you something, to help you, to assist you, to let you know that you're loved? I've shouted priests to go on a pilgrimage. And like, this is something I want to do for you, and it's just amazing where they think, but why are you doing this? No reason. So that's another thing that you can do.
We're supporting them in their vocation, because many priests lose their vocation.
Yeah.
You and I have heard many stories where good priests leave the priesthood because they're overwhelmed by bureaucracy, they're overwhelmed by so many things, they're not supported in their vocation to which they gave their life to. And then no wonder the devil capitalizes on that, and we're all human, and they end up leaving the priesthood. I mean, it's shocking if we don't support our priests.
That is a wonderful blessing for my ministry, is that I get to travel all around Australia. I did a big road trip for New South Wales. I drove from Melbourne up to Albury, then to Wagga, and then right up through
That's not that far.
to Bathurst, Armidale, then out to Moree, back down through to Wagga, and then I went across to Tumut, and then it was amazing. 11 days on the road. Every night I stayed in a presbytery, and I bought a gift for each priest, a bottle of wine, and we had dinner together, and we talked about what's going on in their parish, and it was like, that's one of the blessings, is I get to befriend some of these guys that are quite often lonely, and their own parishioners are not befriending them, and so that's really important. Another practical thing is volunteer. Tell your priest, I'd like to run Alpha in our parish, and get a few people together. And it's so easy to run, because you just put a videotape on, and you and then they give you all the questions, they give you all the materials, all the resources, and you get some people who sit as a table host, and we give you the training. I'm on the board of Alpha Australia as well, one of the other ministries that I'm involved in, and that's a practical way. You could run a Jeff Caven's Bible timeline that in your parish. and you can just volunteer to do 10 weeks where you sit, where you actually put something on for people to learn a bit more about the Bible. You can actually, there's so many things you can actually volunteer. One of the things my wife and I did when we had young children, we said to the priest, you know, when people come to the priest and they say they want to get their kid baptized, but they're not practicing, they're not in the parish, and then the priest has to do some preparation for baptism. And so after the child was baptized, you won't see that couple again until the child turns 5 and they want to go to the local school. And then they start going through the parish, you know, a few things with the school when they do first communion and first, you know. But what we did was we suggested to the priest that we would have a home mass where once a month, and we'd get the names of every person who was getting their children baptized, and we'd invite them. And every month there was 1 or 2 extras. And so by the end of 2 years, we had about 20 families or 30 families that had had their children baptized. And every month we'd invite them to come to a mass at our place, and we'd order in pizzas and wine at the end of mass.
Beautiful.
And we just gave everyone pizza and a bottle of, and we had a glass of wine. And what happened was some of these couples would just come and they had a social time with us. And so all the kids used to call it the pizza mass. And the easy thing to do. And so as a ministry, that's something you could do is say, could we, and then our parish priest came and said mass. Another thing, and so just getting involved in the First Communion program or confirmation, or there are so many things and jobs and tasks. You could actually help run a soup kitchen or get adoration chapel going, or the things that the priest doesn't have to do, but if lay people volunteer to get people together. So yes, it's hard. You've got to give you some time. You've got to volunteer. You've got to get involved in things. But I can't believe the number of people that are so lazy that they don't volunteer. They don't get involved in the parish. And so, you know, people, it's easy.
It doesn't have to be something major. It doesn't have to be something major. I know it sounds like we're doing so much, but it could be one thing where you start
one of these
one little
million things that I could rattle off hundreds of jobs, hundreds of things you could do. Write a letter, give a bottle of wine, invite a priest around to a fire pit, invite a priest around for dinner with your family or with friends. Run a 10-week course, which sounds like it's big, but you know, surely you can do it, and then it comes to an end. Get involved in the baptism program, where you volunteer once every 2 months to have a couple come around to your home and talk. There's a little series that Parousia has called Reborn, the Ascension Press puts out about baptism, and you put on a video and you watch a video with them and talk about it afterwards and have a cup of tea. It's not too hard. You could do that, you know, for 3 weeks, and then they get the child baptized. You go to the baptism. So one person from the parish knows them and is at the baptism so that they feel they belong in the parish. You know, like if you did that once every 2 or 3 months, you know, there's lots and lots of things. If you only want to do a little thing, you know, my question though is, first, pray for a change of heart so that God transforms your life, so you take up your cross and you do more than one little thing. You know, I'm sick of giving everyone the minimal, you know, the minimum viable business plan, minimum viable product. Sure, do that. But, you know, my sense is step up and your life will never be the same. And it transforms you as well as transforming your parish, as well as transforming
the way I think about it is, what else do we want to be doing with our life? Our skills, our time, our money, and our entrepreneurial spirit. What else do we want to be doing with that, other than using whatever skills we have in a secular sense or personal sense and put that into the church? What else do we want to be doing to save souls? I can't think of anything better to be putting our resources and energy and spare time into. You know, if this is the meaning of life, and this is the ultimate goal of life, is to become saints and get to heaven.
As Patrick Calvin says, be a saint. What else is there?
Exactly.
And you know, the alternative doesn't bear thinking about. And so,
and I'm sure you've realized this and seen this in your life, is God blesses you tenfold. When you are generous, he blesses you, whether it's financially, whether it's different blessings with friends, with family, opportunities, he blesses you tenfold, whether it's secular blessings or blessings in your faith. He blesses you. When our Lord sees you trying and doing your best, he blesses you in the end.
Life is so much more fun.
Yeah.
I'm having such fun. I've never
I can feel your energy through the screen. I can feel it.
Unbelievable. That's where God blesses us. It's not going to make me richer because I'm giving it away. But if I give all my time.
But he may bless you. He may give you more money.
I'm not working a day in my life. I'm basically doing things I love to do with people that I love. He's put people like you and Charbel and Matt Frad was here just a couple of weeks ago, hanging out with Matt and Cameron, and they're my friends. And Scott Hahn is my friend. And I'm mixing with. I'm just getting to know some of the most extraordinary people that are like, my life is filled with some of the most extraordinary people. I meet some of these priests. I meet some of these people that are working in parishes. And I've just got people that have got meaning and purpose in their life, that give meaning and purpose to my life, that my life becomes filled with joy, filled with fun. And I wouldn't be dead for quids. That's the way that God is able to bless us. And my family life, he blesses me, my children, and he gives me so much joy, and just reinforces as I surrender. The more I give away to God, I surrender my time, I surrender my talents, I surrender my treasure, my money, and I surrender my influence, my capacity to influence others. I put into influencing for the sake of Christ. And that's why God gave me each of those different skills. And so I feel like I'm living the life that I was born to live. And I'm sure, and I see that in so many others, that they come to work, they come to their parish, they come to the things that they're doing. It's not a drudgery. I think of taking up the cross, and I'm expecting to take up the cross. But what happens is sometimes things are really hard, but there's so much joy that comes behind the scenes, that I have so much fun, and people that I see having fun, and that gives me joy. So, there's so much to be done, and I just think I could do this for the rest of my life, and it's just so worthwhile, and it's exciting. It's so much better than buying a Lamborghini, I can tell you. Not that I've ever bought a Lamborghini, but quite frankly, it's really impractical. When you take kids to school, everyone dropping off the kids at school.
There's better cars than Lamborghini.
In Australia, everyone looks at someone in a Lamborghini and they try to see if you're famous. And if you're not famous, they say, idiot, what an idiot, what a poser. So the thing is, you think you're showing off, but, it's like, people aren't jealous of you. They just think you're a, one of those guys.
But thank you so much, Kevin. It's been absolute delight. You've brought a fire, to this episode, and I'm on fire again. To continue to renew the church, to work in whatever capacity we can on a parish level, personal apostolate level, on an apostolate level. And I highly recommend you check out Parousia Media. Don't forget to get your resources all over Australia and the United States and worldwide. ParousiaMedia.com. That is ParousiaMedia.com, and building up the kingdom of God. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Kevin.
Thanks, George. And if people want to actually renew their parish, just go on divinerenovation.com and drop us a line, drop us a message, and we'll provide resources and help for your priest and your parish. And let's make it happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for tuning into the show. I'm your host and founder, George Manassa. Until next week, God bless, take care, and take action.
In this era of grave spiritual crisis, it is not enough to simply know about your Catholic faith. That is why we need a Catholic Toolbox to equip us with the practical skills necessary to live our Catholic faith to reach our ultimate goal, which is heaven for all eternity. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves, Do what it says. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. for the Catholic Toolbox as we hand you the tools to go forth, live the faith, and change our modern world today. Live on the Voice of Charity.